Well, here's a straightforward question. If I'm painting in plein air on a cloudy day, how can I paint the scene as if it's in sunlight? Well, we had that one once before on one of our YouTube chats. Let's see what we can do with it here. Well, whenever you're painting something that you want to make different from the way you see it, the first thing is to discover what makes it different. And when you go to another situation that would be what you really wanted to do with it, you would study it. You study that before you try to do the new version. In other words, if you're painting in plein air on a cloudy day, or if you're using a photograph that was taken on a cloudy day, before you guess at what would happen to put it in, to interpret it for a sunny day, before you guess what would happen, the best thing to do would be to go to that same place on a day when the sun is shining and decide which direction you want the sun coming from. Now think about it. Let me do a little bit of something for you. What causes images to appear the way they do in sunlight is where the sun is located and where you're located in relation to the sun. So for example, let's just going to just do a little bit of a diagram here. Let's just take a box, for example. What would be a box? Well, so if you have a box that's in a cloudy day, sitting in a situation in a cloudy day, and once I don't have to do that sort of so precise. If the sun is right back here, and the sun rays and the box is between you and the sun, then wherever the sun rays will be coming in this direction right here, all this right in here would be in shadow. And because the sun is coming this way, its rays are going to hit right here, but they're not going to hit areas that are turned away from them. So this part of the box would be in shadow, and so this part of the box would be in shadow too. And with the sun right back here, like this, and this in shadow here, then the sun's going to be casting a cast shadow. It's going to be causing a cast shadow in front here. And where that cast shadow is will be determined by how far or what direction the sun is shining. So you would have a cast shadow that you would need to consider as well. And that might be something about like this, coming down like that, probably something like that, and then something like this, and perhaps like that, maybe a little bit more like that. So as the sun goes further down, you get a cast shadow that is longer. As the sun comes up, you get a cast shadow that's shorter. When the sun comes this way, and it's right overhead, then the whole thing changes again. So what you do there is you try to visualize what the sun rays are doing, not necessarily thinking about where you're going to make it darker and where you're going to make it lighter, just what the sun rays are doing. All right, so let's just try another scenario. And we'll just reconstruct that. Let's take this away. Now, suppose you're still here, the box is still there, but suppose the sun rays are over here. Now, it's hard to show something that's three-dimensional on a two-dimensional surface, especially when I'm trying to tell you where the sun is. But you can visualize if the sun is anywhere on this side of you and coming in this direction, then the sun's rays are going to be coming from that direction too. And so the way you decide what's going to be in light and what's going to be in shadows is to visualize what the sun rays are doing, where the sun rays hitting. Now let me clarify something else for you. So let's say, just for sake of clarity, the sun is up here somewhere. The sun rays are coming down like that. Whatever is in direct alignment with the sun rays, I'll put this down for a moment, put it this way. Whatever is in direct alignment with the sun rays, as the sun rays are coming down, a plane that would be turned towards sun rays is going to catch most light. So it's going to be lighter. Planes that are turning away from the sun rays are going to catch less light. So they'll be a little darker. Planes that are turned almost totally away, but still catching a little bit of light, they're catching a little light because there are fewer rays hitting them. So they're going to be even darker. But planes that are turned totally away from the sun are not going to receive light. They're not going to receive sun rays. What those planes are doing is that those planes are receiving reflected light that hits the ground or other areas and reflecting back onto them. So it's best if you go out in plein air, whatever scene you're interested in painting, go out in plein air, study what the sun rays are doing, and you can expect that. Now, let me show you again just a little bit of what you might look for. Let's say sun rays that are hitting the surfaces that are turned towards them. So imagine the sun rays that are coming down. Imagine where the planes are. Visualize where the planes are. They're going to receive what we call center light. So I'll just write that right here. They're going to receive the brightest light of all. And if they're darker surfaces, they're going to receive, it's going to feel like they receive less light because they're going to absorb those rays. If it's more reflected surfaces, it's going to be brighter. Then you have we can say that you have 3 degrees of light getting darker before it goes into shadow, before anything goes into shadow. And I'm going to name those for you so you'll know how to look for them. We've given this name of, we've given just a name to the light rays and how they hit, just to help us sort of know what to look for. And so when you have the center light, the next lightest light you have, we call halftone 1. So I'll write that down here. Halftone 1. And then, now you know how it's going to happen. As the planes turn even further away from the light, you have halftone 2. And then the planes that are turning more the furthest you could say away from the light and still collecting some light rays, halftone 3. Now, if the surfaces you're looking at are rounded surfaces, you're going to see a little division there. When it's direct sunlight, you're going to see a little division there between halftone 3 and shadow. And that little division is called the terminator. S-H-A-D, yeah. But we also call it transition. So we have that little place there where light meets shadow. That's the transition, and then it goes into shadow. Now you may see 3 degrees of darkness for shadows. So in the shadows where the shadows are where they're just touching what we call that transition area, the terminator area, we can call those shallow shadows. And then the shadows are next darkest we could call moderate. And then the shadows that are the darkest, but that are much darker but not the darkest of all, we could call deep. And then there's one more thing to look for. In areas where you see the sun rays coming, when objects are sitting on a surface, you can't see any light at all. Those areas then are the darkest shadows of all, and those are called occlusion. And I hope I've spelled those words right. If I haven't, somebody will correct me. So if you can visualize what to look for, it's the sun's rays that are causing these things to happen. And we associate values, like the value scale, we associate values with what we see, or the degree of darker light we see each one of these to be, and including the center light. These identifications here you can associate with your value scale. Where your value scale is the lightest light, you can associate that with the center light. And so on throughout the value scale, where about the center of the value scale, we have those transition values. And then the next values, the next darker values become shallow, moderate, deep, and occlusion. So that's sort of a crash course in the anatomy of light and shadow and what you can expect to see and use to translate according to what the sun rays are doing, where the sun is located, and how those rays are hitting surfaces. So it seems like it's a lot to remember, but it's not really when you learn how to associate what you're seeing with what the sun rays are doing. So give that a try and see if that doesn't lead you then into knowing how to take anything that's in overcast light, any scene that's in overcast light, and translate or interpret it as if it's in direct light. Be sure to view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianeMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.